please give a huge white horse welcome to Kathryn Thomas.
Thanks a million.
Kathryn, it is great to have you here in the White Horse, sitting in the red chair, and as you said, unlike The Voice, it does not turn around.
Yes, I'm here.
Have you ever seen
At your mercy.
Graham Norton's show?
Yes, I have.
Okay, just bear that in mind.
Right.
Okay? Bear that in mind.
Thank God I'm wearing jeans and not a skirt.
Yeah, all that kind of stuff. Let's talk about The Voice, because The Voice is a show that has kind of captured the public imagination, and I guess it's kind of brought a lot of fame and attention to your good self as well. Tell us about the program and how you got involved in it.
Well, how many years am I doing it now? 5, I think, 5 or 6. I've lost count. But I had been working on Operation Transformation and had been doing that for, I think, 3 years at that point. Done No Frontiers as well. I'd been working on No Frontiers for 10 years. And there had been stuff that RTE had offered me that I wanted to make sure the next gig that I did was the right gig, because Operation Transformation is such a powerful vehicle in itself. And there were different bits and pieces that were coming in that were being offered to me at the same time. I knew I wanted to do a big live show. So I actually got the reputation from a lot of companies. I kind of became known as being a pain in the arse, because for many reasons probably, but one of them being that I became the girl who said no to everything. And it was sort of, I think, perceived as maybe being a little bit cocky. But I knew that it was hugely important that the next big gig that I did was going to be one that was going to work for me, you know. And I think that's it's a fine line in TV in Ireland when there's not a whole lot of gigs, and there's not a whole lot of jobs, and there is not a whole lot of people that they're willing to take a risk on, if you like, you know. And so anyway, when the Voice came up, I knew this was the one for me. I'd watched the Dutch version and loved it, and I just loved the sentiment behind it, that it wasn't taking the piss a little bit like the X Factor, or you know, that there was genuinity in what was happening in terms of finding
sincerity
the
that
talent.
runs through the
Exactly.
program.
And I just got that, and I really liked it. So so RTE, they rang me, it was Shinna Will, and they said, would I be interested in doing it, coming in for an audition? And I went, what? I have been on television for years. What do you mean audition? And I said, why in the hell? You know what I do? And they said, yeah, but it's Talpa, it's this Dutch company who own the format, who have the rights with RTE as well. And they will be making decisions. And by the way, just as a side note, you will probably be presenting with a male presenter, and that there is nowhere where they've sold The Voice that there is a male presenter, like the female is the sidekick. And I went, hang on a minute. Right.
Okay.
When is the audition?
All right.
And so we went out to the Helix, and it was scheduled, and I was scheduled to present with 3 other very talented gentlemen. But I had done a little bit of homework, and I rang a friend of mine who is a comedy scriptwriter, and got in touch with him and sat down with him, and we went through a few bits. And then I went, okay, what am I going to wear? And I rang up the producer and I said, is there a possibility that I could wear 2 outfits? And he went, geez, no, is the short answer. So, but anyway, I knew that there was going to be, you know, a team of Dutch there. So I went and I found the most orange dress that I could find. Colour,
They're in
colour
tonight.
of the Dutch flag, and I wore it. I said I was going to the ladies, so I did my little piece with the gentleman, and then I said, could I do a piece on my own? Could I just deliver a piece on my own? Which I did in my orange dress. So I still don't know if I got the gig based on the orange dress or based on my talent. But no, it was, I got a phone call when I was away actually to say that I got the job, and I said, who am I presenting with? And they said, no, you're fronting it. And I was delighted. And then they had Owen co-presenting with me. So yeah, it was interesting to do the audition. I was kind of a good going back to basics and kind of, you know, having to prove yourself again, I suppose.
Yeah, for sure. So that's a very interesting story, because that tells us that you have that sense of, call it purpose, you have that sense of self-confidence, you know, you think, you know, I can do this, I'm going to do this. Was that something that you have acquired, or did you always have that, do you think?
I would say I've always been, when I put my mind to something, generally I wreck my own head with trying to deliver, or, you know, trying to achieve that.
Yeah.
So I suppose I've always been a bit of a tomboy. I've always been a bit of an adrenaline junkie. I've always kind of, even as a kid growing up, if I was told not to go somewhere, that's generally where I'd be found.
All right.
If I was told that that tree is too dangerous to climb, that is generally where I would be found.
Sure.
So my dad kind of tells a story that, you know, he always, because I would also call myself a bit of a daddy's girl.
Okay.
I'd be very close to my father. He would be a hero of mine. I think, you know, he's done brilliant things and he's a great person. And he would have always, when in school I was getting in trouble, or when, you know, my poor mother was at the end of her tether, my father would go, "She's just a little restless." And everyone else would go, "She's just fucking reckless," is what she is. So, boundaries always bothered me.
Yeah.
Rules and regulations were a challenge at times. So I always kind of, I was always, not pushing boundaries, but I was always kind of challenging hurdles that were put in front of me, be they perfectly reasonable or not.
Yeah. Well, listen, hey, they're there to be jumped. So given your status right now as one of the top performers, the top presenters in Irish media in RTE, there's got to be a next stage. There's got to be a hurdle. I know within you've got some kind of sense of the next frontier. What's that for you?
I actually don't know. I mean, I don't really think too far ahead in terms of plans. Like people say, you know, career-wise, where do you want to be in 5 years? And I've had such a good run career-wise, and you know, I think I've made a few savvy decisions and sort of found the confidence in myself the older I got, not to just say yes to everything that was offered or everybody that kind of, you know, asked me to do stuff, you know. But I'd also say I've been very lucky throughout my career. When Neil was there talking about Nafina, I started off with Jason Sherlock years ago on a TV show called Rapid. It was a sports program.
Jesus, I remember that.
Rapid, remember, I know.
Yeah.
Don't even try and ask me how many years. Yeah, that was me.
Okay. Wow.
In a former life. So I, you know, started back then, and that was just me in college, you know, wide-eyed, having volunteered, just, you know, was a runner in an office in a production company in town, labelling tapes, carrying Duncan Stewart's lunch to set and back, making him tea, holding the umbrella over his head when it rains so he could practice his lines. And I was enthralled by it all. Loved being on set, loved the camaraderie between the team. And I was labelling tapes one day down in the office, and they were looking for a female presenter for this TV show, for the sports show. And then one of the producers said, "Would you ever think of it yourself?" And I went, "Oh, no. Because I hadn't genuinely really, I wanted to be an actress.
Is that right?
You know, and I wanted to go, I was off to Hollywood, and then I ended up in Donnybrook, and I still haven't left. So I got the job, and I worked on Rapid for 3 years, which was essentially, you know, sport, you know, in the sports arena, interviewing teams, interviewing kids, and then traveling around. And then from there, because we'd done a little bit of travel with the show, I got the offer of doing No Frontiers. And I literally was called into O'Brien's pub on Leeson Street, and a man called Gerald Heffernan sat me down, and he said, "Do you know No Frontiers?" I said, "Yep." and he said, do you want to think about coming on board to be a presenter on the travel show? And I went, no. And he said, what? And I said, I don't need to do any thinking about it. I'm in, that was it there and then.
Right, okay.
And the next week I was in Finland and heading up to the Arctic Circle to do a story there. So again, that like tapped right into my DNA. I'm inquisitive, and I have always had a huge passion for traveling. And so again, that was a job that wasn't really a job. Do you know what I mean? My mates were still in college. I'd been working 2 jobs to try and kind of, keep myself in my flat in college as well. And then you just get an opportunity like this, and it's just put a backpack on your back and disappear and go and see all these incredible countries and cultures and people. And it gave me a massive grounding, I think, and it gave me a huge understanding of who I am. Because I was 21 when I started. And finished at 31. So it was like very formative years where I sort of grew up and became a woman, and sort of became the woman that I am today. Having just started off like that for the first year and two in the jungles of Papua New Guinea, and crossing, trekking across South America, and heading up to the north of Vietnam, and just being open to all how different people lived and how different countries worked. And the fact that it was a huge, big, massive world out there, and I was only a tiny, tiny speck in all of this big, crazy, wonderful place that we live in. And so it was incredible, and it's such a privilege, such a privilege to be involved in it for as long as it ran, and it was a program that I think the Irish people really loved and got behind, because I was brought in to do the independent travel. It had been going on for a couple of years before I joined the team. So when I was brought on, it was just at that time when people were doing that year around the world, and people were taking off and doing the Southeast Asia route, and they were going in to use it on the Keys, and they were buying their 7-stop ticket pass and all that sort of stuff. So it was a really exciting time for travel as well, and it was a time when people started to spend. It was right at that at that time where people were taking 2 and 3 holidays a year. That changed, obviously, for everybody. But so going back to your question, like career-wise, I've loved every minute of that, and then being involved with Operation Transformation, which I'm massively passionate about. I think it's a show, one of the most important shows that RTE have ever aired. I think the impact that it has is incredible. I think the leaders are amazing. I've never worked with a team like the team that make the show. And I'm hugely privileged to have gotten the opportunity to be involved in it, So so I'm really happy with my lot. I'm really happy with the way my career has gone, and the opportunities that I've been afforded, and the people that I've worked with, So, like, do I want the Late Late Show? Not yet. Is it on the cards? Yep.
No.
Is it, I think possibly due to the couple of years that, like, the little stints that I've done on radio, I always sort of thought of myself as a mouthpiece. Do you know what I mean? I always thought of myself as the talker. And then on radio, very quickly I realised actually you have to be a listener. And I actually realised that I'm not as bad a listener as I would have thought. As I feared, because when you have your career when you're the walking, talking mouthpiece, you kind of forget to maybe channel that other side. So I mean, I don't know what's next. Things have just happened at the right time, and it's exciting to kind of not know, I suppose.
Indeed. Now I see a parallel actually, funnily, between your early desire to be an actor. And I guess the nature of performing in the media world. So, like, essentially you are, and of course we'll talk about pure results in a minute, but aside from that stuff, it's the life of an actor, right? That sense of the freelancer. I mean, what's the next gig, and that's we're running that performance and so on. What's that lifestyle like, or not so much the lifestyle, but that sense of, call it the uncertainty. I'm sure a lot of folks here have the more predictable job, pretty much where you're going to be in 2 years' time, even though a lot of that is changing. But you're kind of maybe this gig will be renewed. You know, you always have that uncertainty about the.
Yeah,
how
and
do you find
certainly
that?
it was a big challenge for me in my 20s, you know, when I wasn't, No Frontiers was only ever commissioned on a year-to-year basis, even though it ran for 13 years as one of the longest running shows.
Yeah.
They never told you, you know.
Yeah.
So, I was, being paid not a whole lot because you're paid for, at the time, it was like a half-hour show. But for the sake of the half hour, you would be away for a week or 10 days filming it. But you'd be paid for like a half hour. But somebody else might, be paid for in studio actually working a live half hour. Jesus, okay. But at the time, I didn't give a damn because I was traveling around the world having a ball, you know.
Yeah, exactly.
So it was. It was always a difficult time because because every time it went on another year, we were going, it's never going to get another year. It's never going to get another year. And we'd all have to be, thinking about what we would do. And I did a PR course at night time for fear that it would. I was kind of going, right, if it doesn't work out, what am I going to do? I want to go back to acting. I want to go back to the Gaiety School of Acting to do night course. But if I do a PR course, I can get a job in an office between, and that'll tide me over. But that was the life of a freelancer. You never knew where your next job was coming from, if it was going to be commissioned, and you were at the mercy of RTE. Yeah. And I suppose then the longer, when I got the news that No Frontiers was being cancelled, I did Winning Streak for a while as well, and then Operation Transformation came along, and I was nervous taking on Operation Transformation as well because it was Gerry's show, and Gerry very much, there's no way, Gerry Ryan, you can step into Gerry Ryan's shoes. They are big shoes to fill, and there's no way I was ever going to attempt to do that. And it was his creation and his baby. And Gerry Ryan is an absolute hero of mine. I think he's one of the best broadcasters we ever had. And in the way that he connects with people and the way that he connected with people on that show, I couldn't have imagined anybody else doing that. Do you know what I mean? When people are exposed and vulnerable, that is where Gerry shone, And I was, I suppose, nervous taking that on. But sorry, I know I'm going off the point there a little bit. But when that opportunity came, I had to say to myself, because I knew I'd love to do it. I knew I could bring a different take to it as a woman, as somebody that struggled with their weight, as somebody that's kind of, been up and down and tried every different diet and all of that. And I knew I could get more involved in that's the way I wanted to be a part of it. So I rang Gerry's brother and I said, what do you think? Is it okay? And I felt once I got the validation from his family and Maura and everybody, I kind of felt that they had my back a little bit, do you know? So that's why, and then I went to the production company and said, I'd love to do it this way, and I want to be involved, and I want to be out in the runs, and I want to be at the Army Challenges, and I want to be, because I understood the intrusiveness of that show for the leaders. I mean, it's mental.
It is, isn't it?
I don't think a lot of people understand that you have a camera. So the 5 leaders have 5 crews, and it's just a cameraman or a woman, and they're called predators, which is a very unfortunate name, but it's actually they're producers and editors. So they produce and they edit, and then it's sort of been shortened to that. There might be some people that argue it's a very valid way to describe them, but so they literally like hire or rent an apartment or a little B&B or an Airbnb in Belmullet or in Cork or in Donegal, and they are there for 8 weeks, and they are knocking on that person's door, and they are in the car, and they are in the supermarket, and they are in the office, and they are in their home, and they're there at 7 o'clock in the morning, and they're there when you're putting the kids to bed at night. So it is insanely intrusive, but what it does, we know what it does, you know, it works. And it provides a focus for people, and it gives people back self-confidence and reassurance and and all of that. So it's an incredible show to work on. So sorry, coming back to your question, when you get involved in something like that, you become less worried about yourself. I suppose it's the show is and I suppose it's going back to what you were saying about surrendering to not to the masses, but what was your surrender?
The collective.
To the collective. Like that show is an incredible show. I really believe in it passionately. And I think the success is down to everybody is in it together, and there's an honesty,
Yes.
and there is a decision that everybody will be, once you're in, you're in.
Yeah.
And once the leaders know that the whole production team have their back, which we do, there is a real sense of support in that. And with support comes success.
Yes.
In all walks of life, I believe. And I think that's certainly what I've learned from the show, is that the power of support is massive.
Yeah.
And the power of working in a team is incredible. And so that show is I just think.
Did you have a sense when it started, like, you know, when it first went to TV, that it would become such a, for the want of a better phrase, a national movement? You know, you see all these people out doing the walks on a Saturday or Sunday, whatever it is.
I think everybody
It's
in
amazing.
Ireland owns one of those high-vis vests.
That's right.
We're all
That's
like
right.
little
That's right.
high-vis ants in January.
Yeah.
I had no idea,
Yeah.
you know. We realised quite soon, and that was, I think it was again down to the power of social media, because Facebook was becoming the big thing, and all of a sudden RT described it as the programme as a 360 format, which is across TV, radio and the internet.
Okay.
So what it did was provide people a platform to get involved. So instead of being, or as well as being in your slimming world or in your gym, or the women that meet up on a Wednesday, or the mother and baby groups or whatever, this provided an extra platform, and it was visible, and it was one that provided, you know, talking points in the office, and it provided, you know, once we started getting videos in from people going, we want to do something too, we want our kids to get involved, and also it became quite, it did become quite political, probably a year or two after I joined, in the fact that you had Professor Donal O'Shea and Niall Moyna on, and going in and lobbying the government, and going in and sitting in the Dáil and going saying, we have to do something about childhood obesity, and you know, we are now on course to be the fattest country in Europe, and what's happening, and this is our health system, and you know, and all of a sudden what became a kind of a show that, you know, like I'd watch, or the housewives would watch, or my mother would watch, or my granny would watch, all of a sudden became, you know, a show that students were watching and teachers were watching, and you know, my dad was watching, and it became a kind of more than just a weight loss show, you know.
For sure. And I think that probably the best thing about Operation Transformation is that it gave a context for people to have a conversation about fitness, about weight, about health, in a way that wasn't kind of, oh yeah, or, you know, Jesus, I'm embarrassed. You know, it was okay to kind of talk about it, because kind of this is going on.
And I think it took the fear out of it for a lot of people. People are afraid a lot of the time, you know, to you know, if they've fallen off the wagon, to go to a gym, or to reach out for help, or you know, or financially, you know, joining a gym, or you know, or making that sort of commitment for a personal trainer or anything like that. And I think what it did was it showed again the power of community in Ireland.
Yes.
Like they've optioned it in the States, right? They've optioned Operation Transformation in the States. Warner Brothers have taken it, and I went over to Los Angeles, not with any way because they're going to have Oprah or Kirstie Alley or somebody do it, but it was to my sister was living over there at the time, and I you know, so I'd have a couple of contacts over there, but they couldn't understand, you know, when I was in talking to them about it, you know, because they bought the show. There was a guy, Adam, over there, and he loves the show, and he works quite a lot with Philip Camp, who's the producer, and they were going, yeah, but like, who wins at the end? Like, who wins?
We all win.
And it was like they couldn't understand, you know, because in America there's, you know, there's prize money, and there's winners and there's losers, and there has to be a big thing. And the reason why Operation Transformation, I think, is so successful is because it shows the power of community. And I think that's what Ireland is. Ireland is about community. And you look at Ireland at the grassroots level, and that's what it's about. And all those walks, you know, whether I turned up in Edenderry or Belmullet or whatever else, and you'd have 300 people in a square, all out, neighbours meeting neighbours that they'd never met before, somebody going, you know, I've moved here 3 years ago, I didn't know anybody, I was watching EastEnders at this time last week, and now, you know, I now know people in the shop, I now can say hello to people. And, you know, and whether that's, you know, your elderly neighbours or whoever, you know, because there's a lot of people commuting in and out of these towns, satellite towns now. So I still think that's incredible that we're getting videos and groups that are still, you know, run throughout the year, you know.
Yeah. How much... I suppose that there's never an end point in any of this, but it's had a big impact on Irish life, I would say, Irish culture maybe. how much more of an impact would you like to see it have before you kind of say, you know what, no, we've done as much as we can in this, and all these other things are going to happen? Do you think it's got more to grow?
Yeah, I do think it has more to grow, because that's what television, that's what the power of the media, I suppose, is. It's funny, working with my sister now, who's involved with my company, Pure Results. She keeps going, it's the power of the bloggers. She's going, the bloggers, and it's the social media, and now all these kids have agents, and and that's the way it's going. Yeah. And I'm going, how much for them to send a tweet? 400 euro? What? And like, this is a whole world that I'm sort of learning about now. But the world that I know is the power of television and the power of print still, even though we know print is changing, and but that's what, if you can get into 500,000 or 600,000 homes on a Wednesday and a Thursday night with a message, that is hugely powerful. Yes. So but I think it has to happen on every level. I think it has to. We do a lot of school visits, and there's teachers out there who are in, they're at the end of their tether, trying to incorporate stuff. So it has to happen from the government. There has to be a stronger take on the government side to this. I think it has to come down to the supermarkets. It has to come down to the workforce, to the big companies. The likes of the Googles and the Intels and all them are. A lot of the big companies now have corporate wellness as a major part of what they do, which is amazing. And I think it's kind of. It's not before time, but it has to happen on a societal level as a whole. I think we all have to take responsibility. It's all very well saying to parents, "Oh, don't buy, crap for your kids," but there has to be help out there. There has to be, I think, a little bit more education. I don't know the answer, but I think collectively as society we have to do something that can change the numbers and the statistics the way they're going.
Yes. Well, you're certainly doing that with that show. It's a very emotional show. There are a lot of tears. Yeah. And there can be outbursts. Yeah. Even without Dr. Ava. Yeah. I'm not going to go there. So, do you find sometimes that you come home after a day or a shoot or whatever it is, and you're absolutely drained from the emotion of something like that? Because it seems to be very intense at times. The most intense day is the day that we have the 25 prospective leaders together, and we do that out in Santry, and that is the most draining emotional day of my year. And I'm not even in there to be selected, if you like, but it's an incredibly powerful day as well, because you've got 25 odd people who have their self-esteem is on the floor. They hate themselves and how they look. They are absolutely bricking themselves because they have to get into swim and togs in front of not only people they don't know, but about 15 cameras. And they have, they're ready to walk out, and they're ready to drive back. And they've been up, we have to be there at 6 o'clock in the morning. So they have been up from 3, probably not slept. No matter how much Canis would have said, there ain't no sleep happening that night. No. And so, But what happens there is it's that support and community. And once people get in there and they feel connected, and they feel that nobody's out to make a show of them, and they feel that we are there fully supporting them, and that's everybody from people behind the camera to in front of the camera to the ladies making the tea, and we all, and I'm not like that, from caterers, everybody is in and is briefed in terms of how to manage and how emotional this day can be for people, and it is so incredible to see once they get into their togs, and I go around the changing rooms to them all, and how you feel, and they're bricking it, but once they get out and they do that, there is a weight that is lifted off collectively, and it is so powerful to see it, and there is engagement, and there's chat, and there's talk, and there's I can't believe I did it. And after that they do the circle of truth with Eddie, which is where a lot of emotional baggage comes out. And again, it's in a very trusting environment, and at the end of that day everybody is wrecked, but there is faith and there is confidence, and it is literally 40-fold from there are new people walking out that door, whether they get selected or not. And it's so incredible, and it's so powerful to see that happen. And it literally is, and that's why I always say the power of the mind is
so undervalued and so underestimated. I mean, somebody who is so intrinsically unhappy in their body, it always is a reminder that very rarely it's about the physicality, and it's all about kind of
isn't that true?
What happens up here, you know?
Isn't that true? From the outside looking in, it occurs to me that the passion that you got from Operation Transformation led you on an inevitable path to exploring what pure results might look like, setting it up, letting it develop. Is that true? Was it a kind of thing that you almost could not but make it happen?
Well, to be honest, like I have, as I said, I love Operation Transformation, but I'm somebody who's kind of been in and out of fitness myself, and I'm somebody who's gone up and down in weight myself. I'm kind of an all or nothing person.
Okay.
Do you know what I mean?
Yeah.
So I love my grub.
Yeah.
I love my dinners. I love my cheese. I love my wine. I love my nights out with the girls. I love all of that. So, and at the same time, I love how in the last sort of 10 years, what I've learned on Operation Transformation, how exercise and fitness has given me a new headspace, if you like.
Okay.
So I've gone off and I did these different boot camps. I went off to Spain and I did one, and through No Frontiers as well, I did surf camps, and I went off to India on a 3-week yoga camp, which was very bizarre because there was a trip cancelled, and I just went, I need to go and find myself. I don't know, I was having one of those moments. I need to go and find myself. Where do you go? India. Okay. And I just kind of booked it in, and I rang my dad when I got to Kerala, and I said, oh, Dad, I'm in India for 3 weeks just in case. And that was nothing new for him because he just never knew what part of the planet I was in.
Okay.
But unfortunately, I didn't read the small print, and it was a silent yoga retreat. So, and that was actually really weird because, as Jen and Niall will tell you, like meditation has never really been my bag.
Okay.
And I have a brain that kind of works, and the more you're told to sit back and relax and not think about anything and get go to that place. So I went to India to try and get into that place because I wanted to see like why I couldn't get into that place. And so when it was and I'm chatting to everybody when I go in, and nobody's talking back to me.
Okay.
And I then was told basically to zip it for 3 weeks. I remember getting to day 3 and crying my eyes out because we were staying in these little mud huts, and it was monsoon season, and it was just like those amazing, incredible Indian monsoon rains. And I just remember being extremely lonely, and I travelled all over the world on my own before. Yeah. But when you're not allowed talk, it was a very different experience. But it was very much about kind of being at one with yourself. Yeah. And for never, I'd kind of realised I'd never been at one with myself. Interesting. So it was really an interesting kind of, God, I'm having one of those, outer body experiences where I'm now at one with myself. Yeah. And it was really overwhelming, actually, to be silent and be in your head. And they basically take your mobile phone off you, so they leave you with a few books. Okay. And but it is very much meant to be a switch off. And it took me the guts of, to 5 days to actually be okay with it and not be scared of it and not be afraid of it and to actually embrace it, Did
you last the 3 weeks of silence?
I did, but I did hop over the wall. I met an Indian fisherman who... I met an Indian fisherman who... he used to take me off on his moped into town, and he talked to me. Did he? And and we hung out a little bit. And he's I still keep in touch on the day. He again, like his mother was a paraplegic, and he looked after her, and he fished from that beach. Martin is his name. And he ended up in Dubai, working in a hotel kitchen in Dubai. But it was nice to kind of. Have him to talk to.
Yeah. Jesus, 3 weeks is not. Yeah. So, like, you've all those experiences then, which kind of give you that sense.
I always get to the end of these, and I'm going, "What did you ask me again?"
It's all right. It works for me. original idea, at some point, like there was a crystallization of the idea where you said, you know what, I could do boot camps, or why don't we do, you know, can you remember when that thing crystallized in your mind?
Yeah, because I thought about it and I went, okay, I'm not going to be doing television forever. I love it, but I'm somebody who loves a challenge, which is why I kind of loving radio at the minute, because it still terrifies the hell out of me.
Okay.
And so I would be very nervous going on air.
Right.
And even, you know, in the last...
More so than doing a live...
Totally.
thing.
Put me in front of a camera and with 3,000 people in the room, and I know that there's 500,000 people watching, I'm grand. Put me in a room, and I said this to Joan, there's a lady here in the front who I worked with on a program called The Speech, and public speaking that's why I think what the lads did tonight, I said, you know, I've got the easy job because you're asking me the questions, but actually standing up and performing and presenting like that, it's a different kettle of fish, you know. When, you know, there's no interruptions, you know, there's a format with TV presenting, and I've been doing it for years, so I don't feel that it's a big challenge for me anymore. Radio is much more intimate. Yeah. You have to draw somebody out of themselves, and you have to make sure, you know, as you're doing, you know, like the interview is moving along and all of that. But actually public speaking, so I presented at the All Ireland Business Summit, and I didn't sleep for 2 days beforehand. I was terrified, and there was like 50 people in the room, because I had to talk about, and I had to do something that was outside my comfort zone. For sure. And that terrified me more than, you know, presenting to 500,000 people. So it's funny, but with the idea for the boot camp came about because I have that passion for travel, passion for holidays, and that passion for fitness and people. I love people. I love meeting people, and by the very nature of the 10 years, the crew would go home and I'd stay on and I'd go to these camps because it was a way to travel on your own but meet people. Yeah. And I just said, there's nothing like this in Ireland, and why isn't there? Because I think Ireland, like, we have a great reputation in terms of tourism. Our numbers are coming back up again, and we are the tourism that brings the crack and the beer and the Guinness and the dancing on the tables and the flicking madness and the whole lot. And not that should change, right? But the Wild Atlantic Way has been a massive success. Yep. I think Fáilte Ireland have really upped their game. They've looked at what New Zealand are doing. They've looked at what Canada are doing. And in terms of tourism, if you look at what we have here in terms of the food producers in this country, I actually think wellness tourism in Ireland is something that that Ireland could be a leader of in a very short space of time with the right people working together. We have the natural amenities, we have the beauty, we have people who come for it anyway. We have incredible food, and I think with the wave of wellness that Ireland is riding at the moment, it's not unthinkable. So to provide, you know, I looked at what was there in the space, and there wasn't a whole lot. Yeah. So what I wanted to do was provide somewhere that people could come to, that they could get the exercise they wanted, that it was going to be open for everybody, whether you were, you know, 10 stone or 20 stone, whether you were the fittest or the fattest, or whether you were, you know, the unfittest, that I wanted to provide a product that was, and a place that was safe, that was inclusive, that there was no best or worst, that the whole product was adaptable, that everybody can push themselves outside their own comfort zone. Yes. So, and also to have a bit of crack as well. Yeah. I don't do anything that kind of doesn't involve a bit of fun. Good. So I set about kind of finding the right team. And again, I had no idea about business, which is why I still think it's hilarious. In the space of a year, I'm like at these business summits, because again, I kind of jump 2 feet in, and then I do the thinking after, and I'm quite impulsive.
Sometimes that actually is a good thing in this kind of stuff, I think. Yeah.
So it was that kind of idea of, let's make people feel great and let's put Ireland on the map, and this is going to be fantastic, and we can, you know, we can be outdoors all the time, and it's about playing, and it's about kind of engaging and getting people to find self-belief and confidence in themselves again, and making friends and doing all this. And what I didn't think about was, once you start and you're in business and you're paying rent and you have an office and you have a team of 10 and you're finding locations and you've got accountants and you've got the whole thing, then it's like, okay, so this has to happen as well. Yeah. But so very quickly then, that's again why you're the team around you, because I'm not an expert in anything. Yeah. And so I had to make sure I found the correct experts
And
to do the right
for
job.
the want of a better phrase, how traumatic was that process of, going from where you could show up at any of the gigs we've talked about, and there's a crew around you, and you're like, okay, Kathryn, this is what you need to do, and you're on, as opposed to you kind of being, okay, shit, what needs to happen here, and who am I going to get to do it? How challenging was that for you?
It was very challenging and extremely terrifying because I had my friend Aisling who lost her job, and so it was me and her. She moved into the house, and it was kitchen table stuff, and it was 2 o'clock in the morning stuff. And I thankfully have a friend of mine who runs a gym, Paul Byrne. So he started setting up interviews for trainers because I didn't even know what to look for in a trainer. Yeah. I just said, I don't want any sergeant majors. I want people who are lovely. I want people who give hugs. I want people who are going to work hard.
Yep.
And I want people to kind of work with me and understand that I don't know everything.
Yes.
Because I don't know what sort of a boss I am. So I don't know what I am, but I kind of know what I want, you know. So I met loads of different trainers, and when I met Niall, I knew that Niall was the man for the job.
Yes.
He is amazing and incredible, and then it went from there. And he was like, my wife is a nutritionist, and I'd met lots of different nutritionists, nutritional therapists, and I probably interviewed about 40 trainers, I would say.
Go on.
And it's about a feeling for me as well, you know, and you have to connect with people, and you have to they have to meet you on the level.
Did any of the trainers rock up in an orange dress by any chance?
No. No, but there was plenty of very attractive men in very tight t-shirts.
Okay.
With very, very big arms, and I have a soft spot for arms.
Okay.
That just didn't quite cut the mustard.
No.
And it was interesting because it was for the first time you're looking at staff and you know they're going, well, what am I getting out of this, and do I have 5 hours off to go to the gym, and I need to do my training myself, and it was there was a lot of me. Yeah. And I'm going, that's it's not a gym, and this is actually about a team, and it's about building a team that'll grow, and so we have, and Niall, not that Niall doesn't have good arms, don't get me wrong. He's got great arms.
He has great arms.
But we've got a great team of men and women who are incredible, but who also have their own story, you know, and who also can understand the journey that people are going on. That was really important for me.
Yes. So if I was to ask you, like for over a year at it now, with boot camps running, I suppose that there's two angles to my question. Yeah. In terms of what you've learned, the first piece I want to focus on, the participants. What have you learned from observing them go through the process?
I have learned that they are capable of doing a hell of a lot more than they give themselves credit for. No. And it's really interesting. It happens all the time. I mean, we move different locations. We're 90% women. We are probably, I would say probably 90% of our clients are there to lose weight. Okay. Whether that's 5 pounds or whether it's 5 stone. Okay. And there is just this, again, it's the fear factor that comes into play. Because, I'll never forget Mary, she's a woman from Cork actually, and she turns up in the Nissan Micra, and she drives in, and we're down in Baltimore, outside Skibbereen, and we've all the lads, and we're taking the bags, and we're welcoming everybody. And she opened the door of the car, and before she even put a foot out, she goes, "Now, Kathryn, I don't run. I've had 4 children. I have boobs, and, I can't do the running. There's issues there physically and everything else." And she was like, "I walk with the girls, and I'll do the walk, but don't make me do the run." And I said, "That's grand, Mary." And at the end of the week, Mary was running, no bother to her. She was running up and down hills with sandbags. Fantastic. And she called herself a runner at the end of the week. No. Now that takes a lot of, work in terms of with the team and for her. Yes. But it's also a realization. It was a realization to her. It's like the I can't people become I can people by the end of the week, and that's really important. And it's kind of, again, it's just about, like, also as well for us, what we realize is we're outdoors for 7 days, and we're kind of it almost is reverting back to playing as a child, because we're running and we're doing an assault course where they're, climbing under nets and they're trying to climb over hay bales. And my mother, who's 64, did this, and no bother to her,
Go on.
And we've had everybody from 16 to 70 down doing it,
Wow.
So there's something as well that people, I don't think we're outside enough anymore.
Yeah, right.
And there's something that's really powerful about, getting, it's pissing rain and you're outside, and you realize you're not going to die if you're running in the rain.
Right,
or you're not going to,
true.
That it's okay once you have a jacket on, or once you get you keep warm. So I think it's again just re-engaging with your brain that you are capable of doing so much more than you give yourself credit for. That's a big thing that I've learned from my clients. And again, strength in numbers.
Yeah.
I
was going to ask you about the numbers thing. How much of the peer support is significant to a group going through the boot camp? Like, do they kind of find their, let's say, the natural order in any group, and is that a positive thing? Do you spot kind of negative things happening?
100%. Yeah. If we have a group, which very rarely happens, I think it's happened maybe twice, that we have had below average results in terms of weight loss, and we do an evaluation form afterwards about what people found, what they liked, what could be improved, because again, as a new business, we're constantly trying to improve what we're doing. And it just so happened that only on 2 occasions in the last year and a half we had a group that maybe didn't gel, that there was 1 or 2 people that really didn't want to be there and probably weren't ready maybe to be there. And collectively, when that happens, it can have a big impact on a group. And I was massively surprised at that. And then when you've got a group who work together, who laugh together, we always can tell, because our clients check in on a Friday, and when there's loads of banter, I open the door. If I've come down from RT from Dublin, I open the door, and if there's loads of banter and crack and chatter and noise,
you're off.
We're off, and we're going to have a great week, and we're going to have great results. And because we have a lot of people working in 2s as well, so a lot of the classes people would be working in pairs, and a lot of we do like orienteering and figuring stuff out and working as a group, and so that is the collective and the power of a group is massive.
Yeah. The other part of that question: what have you learned about yourself from this process over the year and a half?
Well, I've learned that I've aged about 10 years in the last year. No, I have learned that what have I learned about myself? I've learned that I'm very proud of what we've achieved in such a short space of time. I'm very proud of having an idea and sitting down and probably not thinking about it too much and just running with it and going with it and getting it to the stage that it's at. I've also learned that I'm a perfectionist.
Okay.
That I didn't really know that I was. I knew when it came to my own performance, working in television, I always think like I'm sort of front and center, but there is a massive team of people behind that actually get me to where I am, whether that's scripting, whether it's in sound, whether it's in hair or makeup. Like the team behind a TV show is massive, and I've always been so fortunate to work with an incredible team, and I really believe that every member of a team is important no matter what role they have,
Sure.
So I always was kind of doing my best for them, not really for ratings. It was, if we went away with no frontiers, there was 3 of us, cameraman, director and myself, and we all had to come back with the story. It didn't matter a damn who was doing what, but everybody had to give 100%. So I've always maintained that I give 100% for the team. And so I didn't realize what a perfectionist I was until it came to a product that I had designed, that I had to stand over, that people were paying big money to be there, and they were given a week of their time and a week of their holidays, and I needed to make sure that every last detail is nothing is overlooked, and everything is to a T, and that's what I say to my team all the time. Because again, you realize that, like, yes, we're in the health and fitness industry, but I also had no idea that all of a sudden I was going to turn into Frances Brennan, because you're in the service industry then as well, you know, because you're in hospitality, and you have to make sure, you know, are people happy with the beds? Are they happy with their room allocation? Is there hot water? Have they got the towels? When is it this? And are they, you know, they share? So, like, there's that, you know, and so even the very logistics of that, and everything, they deserve everything to be right. Because when you are selling something, I cannot understand how anything can be substandard, and that is me. It's the product. It's the team. It's everything. It's the food. So everything that we do, and everything we attempt to do everything like 110%, and we attempt to offer the best product. So and I kind of didn't realize I'd be such a
a stickler.
Yeah, kind of whip cracker.
Yeah, that's all right. By the way, is there whip cracking on the boot camps? No, just checking.
There is no whips.
Metaphorical only?
Metaphorical only. It's not that sort of a camp.
Okay.
But there is, we give a kick and a kiss at the same time, if you like, or a kick and a hug at the same time. I'm probably the most vocal of, you know, when there's classes going on in terms of encouragement and motivation. Niall has to tell me to shut up sometimes, which is perfectly fine. You know, it's to ensure that everybody gets the most out of it. But it's not Sergeant Major stuff. It's not, you know, it's not scary stuff. I think the word boot camp probably scares people a little bit, and we're toying with the idea of maybe going pure results fitness retreats.
Yes. Because
I think the word boot camp may put people off, you know, so that's kind of a marketing thing that we're looking at.
Maybe they're expecting to whip those kind of people.
Well, yeah.
It's a niche market, though, to be fair.
It is a niche market.
Yeah.
That could be a side business.
It could be. It could be. It could be. We can explore that.
Are you putting yourself forward for a whip?
Well, I can crack the whip. That's about the size of it. Jesus, how do we go down there? So, if I was to say, Kathryn, in 2 years from now, in the summer of 2018, we come back here, and again here, you're sitting in the red chair, and for you to be delighted with pure results.
Yeah.
What will have happened?
We will have our own location. We will probably have 2 locations. I'd like to have our own one, and then use a second location. I think the idea of having a bi-location along the Wild Atlantic Way or somewhere along the coast is very appealing to, you know, for our 7-day retreats, and for our overseas market, which we're starting to look at now, and then to have somewhere like slap bang in the middle of in Ireland, like where we are now in Westmeath, which is geographically accessible for Cork and Dublin, and we would have our kind of 4-day taster courses or booster courses there, and we're looking at getting into the corporate end of things as well.
Very good.
So that would be the idea, and to have a kind of 2 teams working, to be employing the guts of probably 20 people. Brilliant. And to have hopefully other people doing something similar. I mean, I embrace, you know, competition, or you know, there was all this talk in the papers about, you know, people pitting others against, you know, me or whoever else. I support anybody who sets up a business, only because I know the trials and tribulations, having done it myself, and the pitfalls and all of that. But I think there is a big opening there for wellness tourism to grow, and I would love to be just a small part of that. Brilliant.
My final question, sadly, for you, for any person who is somehow hungry for a change when it comes to their health and wellness and fitness and so on, what would you say to them in terms of what the first step should be?
I think fast forward in your brain, if you're lying in bed and you're going, I'm really happy or I'm really unhappy. I don't like the way I look. I don't like the way it's making me feel, and that kind of thing of, you know, if you feel that you're withdrawing, which is what we see a lot with our clients, is fast forward yourself to exactly 12 months later and lie in that exact same bed and picture yourself in that exact same situation and go, do you make the change then? Or do you actually wake up tomorrow and start the change then? You know? And it literally is, it's the scariest thing. It's you know, it's making a change or doing anything, it's the first step is the scary one. And after that, you know, it's like going for a job interview. You know, you brick it for 3 days and you know you're in flitters, and then when you get there, it's never as bad as you make it out in your head. And I think our head can let us run away with ourselves.
That is true.
So that's what I would do. And also reach out. I think support is big. I don't think you need to come to a boot camp. I don't think you need a personal trainer. I don't think you need any of that. But I think you do need support, whether that's at home or whether that's, you know, your mate who can say, listen, hold you to going for a walk 3 times a week.
Yeah.
Hold you then to, and reaching out to somebody that may be a little fitter than you.
Yes.
Because they're going to push you that little bit harder. You know,
Yeah.
so I would always look for support. I would always look for, you know, somebody to kind of help you on the journey, because I think when you any change, you know, to that extent is you know, needs a little bit of help.
Well, thank you, Kathryn, for the help that you are providing to everyone in the
thank
Pure
you for
Results. Thank you
having
for
me.
the Operation Transformation Inspiration, which has transformed this country. And thank you for being in our red chair.
Thank
Kathryn
you.
Thomas, everybody.